Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Casual Podcast. I'm Rob.
And I am Jonathan. Guys, we have one hell of a way to end the year.
Yes.
Please welcome to the Casual Podcast, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
What's up, guys?
Yeah. The man.
Stephen, thank you so much for joining us, man. We are huge fans. Before we get going, we gotta clear something up from the get-go. So every great nickname has a great backstory. So Wonderboy, is it from The Natural or is it from the Tenacious D song?
Well, actually, it was from neither. I had my first full contact kickboxing fight when I was 15 years old. I looked like I was 12, and my dad kind of threw me to the dogs on this fight because, I'm sitting here getting beat up by my sister fought before me, my older sister. She kicked my butt for years. So I thought I was terrible, right? I kickbox. You hear, this girl just kicking my butt all the time. So I thought I was terrible. So for a way for my dad to show me that I was better than what I thought I was, my very first fight, I was 15. Like I said, it looked like I was 12. I fought a guy who was 26 years old. He was 20-0, undefeated. Wow. And I ended up beating the brakes off this guy.
Wow.
And after the fight, the announcer was talking to my opponent. Was like, what'd you think about this Stephen Thompson kid? And he said, I wondered why I stepped in the ring with this boy. And the announcer called me Wonderboy, and it just stuck with me ever since.
That's amazing.
And for years, my brother has been asking me to walk out to Tenacious D Wonderboy. And finally, I gave in. I was like, all right, man, let's do it.
That's awesome, dude.
That's amazing. What was it? What was the feeling like walking up? And when you're 15 years old and you're going up against a guy who's a grown man, undefeated. I mean, what was the feeling like? Just walking into that fight.
It probably the scariest thing you will ever do in your life. And you know what? I still feel that way every time I step out in the octagon. I've got close to just about 80 fights, 80 fights with kickboxing, MMA combined. And I still feel the nervousness. Fighters say they're not scared. They are. They're scared. I'm not afraid to admit it. You're scared because you're getting ready to do battle with somebody who's trying to do you bodily harm. Mm-hmm. So it is literally the scariest thing. And as I'm walking out, like I'm hoping like an asteroid comes down, blows the place up,
Right.
So I don't have to fight. These things start popping in your head.
Uh-huh.
Oh man, what if I roll my ankle? I don't have to fight. But then it's
exactly.
When you step out in the octagon, that door closes, you feel at home. Like all the nerves go away, and it's a blur up until after the fight. Like you don't remember anything because thinking's too slow when you're out there.
Right.
It's really crazy too, because we actually just made a post recently on our on the Casual MMA page when it was Mike Tyson. It was before a fight, and he was literally in tears. He was outside. He was like shaking. He was crying.
Right.
And Teddy Atlas walked outside and just kind of talked to me. He's like, "Come on, Mike." He's like, "You've done this before." It's like once you're in the ring, it all goes away. But it was like crazy, even seeing someone with the ferocity of Mike Tyson still have that self-doubt. You're a world champion, and you still have that self-doubt when you step into the ring.
Right.
Oh yeah, and what gives me confidence is knowing that I did everything I could to prepare myself for the fight.
Right.
That gives me confidence. But not only that, what gives me the most confidence and gives me that most calm before I step out there. And this is something my dad's been in my corner since day one, right? He's never missed a fight. He's always been in my corner, and he tells me the same thing. He says, "Look, like right before we go out, he says, you prepared yourself, win or lose. Your family's still going to love you. Your fans, your students are still going to love you. So just go out there and have some fun." And that always gives me a sense of calm before I step out there. So that definitely helps. But it's nothing. It's a nervousness that only fighters, I think, will ever experience. I don't know. I think that should be like mandatory. After college, everybody should go through that experience. Just one fight. One fight.
I always said that. I was like, everybody on this earth should have to fight once just to know what it's like.
Oh my God. I know. You learn, and not only that, you learn.
Athlete,
yeah.
No, God, you're saying you learn a lot.
Oh yeah. You learn a lot about yourself in the octagon, right?
For sure.
Like some of my favorite fights was when I was getting the crap beat out of me. For instance, Matt Brown, or the first Tyron fight when he knocked me down 3 times in the 4th round.
Right.
I was seeing stars. Next thing you know, I'm in a deep guillotine being, this guy trying to choke me out. You learn a lot about yourself in those moments. I've seen guys at the highest level get put in tough situations. And next thing you know, they're looking for a way out, right? They end up turning their back and let their opponent slap in a choke so they can tap in and be done with. But for some reason, for me, there's no giving up. And there are fighters out there who've been put in tough situations. And, I've hit guys like this, for instance, Jeff Neal, the last guy I fought, Vicente Luque. I hit these guys with everything that I've had. Mm-hmm. And they just kept on coming forward. Like, that's the type of guy I want to have my back, in any situation. The guys that just take a beating and keep on coming forward. Like, you learn a lot about yourself in those situations and about your opponent. Like, you have this relationship now that you've experienced with them, like you've never experienced with anybody else. It's almost like an intimate relationship you have now, because deep inside them what they're made of.
Right.
Oh yeah, dude.
Which is cool, I think.
Wow.
That's great.
So you definitely earned another great nickname, the nicest mofo, or the NMF. We'll keep it. Yeah, we'll keep it clean. And you recently called out the BMF, Jorge Masvidal. Now, there are rumors about him fighting Colby, but I just wanted to get your take. What do you take into consideration when calling out a fighter, and how does it affect you when, or if you don't get the fight you necessarily want?
At this point, it can be a little frustrating, right? The last guys, I'm ranked number 5. I'm working my way up. I'm still good for that title shot. Yeah, I'm 37. I'll be 38 in February, but I feel like I'm 25 years old.
For sure.
And I think that has to do with the way I train. We train very intelligently. We take care of my body, things like that. But, I've kind of been through those situations, and I really didn't understand until I was there, right? Ranked number 5, but UFC kept giving me guys that are ranked number 11, number 12. Right. And it's like, come on now, I'm beating these guys. Give me somebody in the top rank, in the top 5. I was poking at somebody not too long over the summer, Leon Edwards, a little bit in the nicest way possible.
I can attest to that.
Yeah. Leon Edwards, of course, he wasn't having it, but it can get a little frustrating. But the thing is, like, I don't mind giving these guys that are, working their way up, because I was in their shoes not too long ago. When I wasn't even ranked when I fought Jake Ellenberger, he gave me a shot. He gave me that shot, that chance. Same thing with Johnny Hendricks. I was ranked in the top 15, I think. And then Johnny Hendricks, who was ranked number 2, gave me a shot. Right. So I don't mind giving back to these guys, because I was in their shoes, and, give them a shot at working their way up. And obviously I train my butt off as if they're the champions, but it can get a little frustrating, but at the end of the day, I know I got to work my way back up, and I got to show the fans in the UFC that I still got it. And that's my job. Yeah. That's what, that's on me.
It's also super frustrating with this. I would have loved to see you fight Leon, and now apparently Hamzat just dropped out of that fight. So it's like, God bless it, just take the fight you're supposed to take.
I know. And why does it have to happen now? Like, I'm on a a month suspension at this point with the cut, and I end up tearing my quad in the fight, which is, I don't know if you saw in the 4th round. After the 4th round, I'm looking at my knee, and you see this huge contusion above my knee. I thought it was my kneecap out of place. I'm sitting there trying to pop it back in, but I ended up tearing my quad, and it kind of just bundled up right up above my knee. So I have an MRI on a Thursday. So it's like, why couldn't I have come out of this fight healthy? Because I would have jumped in there with Leon Edwards for sure.
I think everybody would have loved to see that fight too.
Oh my gosh. I think the matchup is great too, because, he's the type of guy that you really have to be on your P's and Q's, because he evolves. He gets better after every time you see him fight. And when I get ready for an opponent, I go back to their earliest fights and all the way up until their most recent fight, just to see how much they've evolved and how much they've changed. And Leon's the type of guy who changes every time. So you don't know where he's going to take the fight. He's great. He's got great stand-up. You're starting to see his wrestling and jiu-jitsu more in his last fight with RDA. But I would love that fight for sure.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So as a professional kickboxer, you amassed this unprecedented 58-0 record, which is just, it's mind-boggling. And you get your first call to come up to the UFC. knock out your first fight, and then your second fight in the organization, you suffer your first loss. How did that loss affect you mentally? And how did you first cope with that first blemish on your record?
To be honest with you, it was at first, I was disappointed in myself. There was a lot of things that kind of happened during the whole process. I should have taken some time off. This was on me. I should have taken some time off after my first fight. In February, they wanted me to fight a month later and against a guy named Matt Brown. And I'm like, who is this Matt Brown guy? I just finished the guy in the first round. Sure, let's take this fight. And I should have done my research because this guy was a vet. He was in the Ultimate Fighter. He had like 10 UFC fights, but before I even stepped out there, I had hired a new strength and conditioning coach. He had me doing a lot of bodybuilding, lifting. I was walking around about 215. Wow. 215 pounds trying to cut to 170.
Right.
And it killed me. Like I was passing out, and 30 seconds in that first round, I was done. I was done. Energy was out the window. I was in survival mode at that point. But I look at it as a blessing, to be honest with you. I've never had a loss before, never experienced that. And that was always something that I was afraid of, which I really shouldn't have been. Because I learned a lot about myself in those fights. Like I said, I was put in deep water in that fight with Matt Brown, and I didn't give up. I wasn't having it. I was taking a beating. There was a point, I think in the third round, he had me in like a reverse triangle, wasn't finishing me with it, but he was punching me in the head. And I remember the ref saying, Steven, you got to do something. You got to do something. Or you're going to lose. So, you guys got me? Can you see me?
Yeah, we got it.
All right, okay, sweet. So all I could think about doing was just kind of rolling around, just trying to keep moving so the guy won't stop the fight while I'm getting punched in the face. And it was heartbreaking at first. My very first loss, it was in Atlanta. So I had my whole town there to support me. Mm-hmm. But I learned a lot about myself. Those are the fights that I will always take with me, that I enjoy the most, because that's the first time I was ever put in deep water and I didn't give up. Right. I didn't give up. And that's something that I learned training with champions like George St. Pierre. I've trained with Anderson Silva, Lyoto Machida, Rashad Evans, Nate Marquardt, Chris Weidman, all these champions. And that's something that I learned, that indomitable spirit that they have, when they're put in deep water. And I make sure that I put myself there in training, so that way when I'm put there in the fight, I'm used to it. Like I'm at home.
Right. Yeah, it's so right. My ear pod just fell. I grew up wrestling. I grew up. I studied Kempo as a kid, and then
you studied Kempo?
Yeah.
Wow, man, no way. That's awesome.
Shorei Gushi Kempo. Yep.
Yeah, dude, that's sick.
Yeah, and then when I got to LA, it was Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But one of the things, like, I have like a crippling anxiety and claustrophobia. So for me, wrestling was very difficult too, because you don't want to be put on your back. And then in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's just like it's really hard to overcome that stuff. And a lot of times it could seem just the easiest thing to do. It's like you said, just fucking tap, just to get out of that situation. But you really do learn a lot about yourselves when you don't tap. And you welcome that deep water,
Yes, 100%. And I try, like I said, like you said, I was so claustrophobic as a kid, and my dad was a pretty rough guy growing up. Like when he first opened the school, those hardcore back in the 60s and 70s, 80s style karate guys, they were hard, tough dudes, And if you didn't have the natural ability to do the martial arts, like, he ran you off.
Yeah,
not a good business model at all, So I remember growing up as a kid, I started my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu journey at 12 years old. And I remember grappling with my dad, grown man, and I would be on the bottom. He would be in mounted position, and he would actually take his gi, cover my head up, and blow hot air. Blow hot air into his gi. And I'm freaking out, man. Just freaking out. He's like, just calm down. Shut up and calm down. You got to think your way through this. What you going to do? And he's sitting there just trying to cover my mouth up. I'm like, I'm sitting there about to die.
I'm sweating over here as you're telling the story.
It was the worst, man. It was the worst. But, I learned at a young age, And that's what karate and the martial arts kind of, you know, that's what you learn doing the martial arts. And I wish
Absolutely.
everybody studied Muay Thai, you know, karate, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, some style of martial arts, because you do learn a lot about yourself, about that perseverance, that indomitable spirit, that never giving up attitude, you know, which
Absolutely.
I think everybody should have, especially in the world today, you know what I mean? Where a lot of these kids aren't getting it from home. They're not getting it from sports. They're on video games all day. You know, they're not learning anything about themselves playing video games, you know?
You're absolutely right.
For sure. Like I have 2 daughters, and I well, before the lockdown, at least, I'm going to get them back into it, but they were in MMA school for a good year and they loved it. And I know even me growing up, I was in Taekwondo, which I know is a little different, but you know, I started that at 4 years old and stuck with it all the way up until my teen. And that's when I got into a little bit other stuff like boxing and kind of like MMA and jiu-jitsu and stuff. But like you said, I never really, I was in those situations, in those deep waters, but when I joined the military and basic training is when I really when you had to like push yourself further than you thought you could go, you know?
Oh yeah.
And, you know, part of me, what I was thinking before, where you were saying that people should be in at least one fight. Another part of it would be, because I know a lot of the world, like Germany, I was in Korea, they'll do 2 years mandatory military service. And I think that would be another good way to get people disciplined. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all about that, you know? 2 years.
I feel like you're 18, you have to do mandatory basic training.
2 years.
Dude, I know, like in Israel, it's like every citizen's mandatory to be in the military for 2 years, right? Yeah. Like, what's her name? Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot or whatever. She was in the military for 2 years. And I think that's pretty cool.
The Korean Zombie, while he was in the UFC, had to go back to Korea and do his 2 year service. And while they're only making like $60-$70 per month.
What?
Yeah, per month. That's it. Yep. So they, you know, their room and board and food is for free, but that's all they're getting. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. You know, and they'll have to leave either their career, college. So, you know, we have a pretty lucky.
That's wild.
Yeah, I mean, I voluntarily went, but these people they're not. They have no choice, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like if I wasn't doing martial arts, I would probably go either military or like a break dancer or something. I don't know. I get that question a lot. If you were an MMA fighter, what would you be doing? Probably military or break dancer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. MMA somewhere in between.
Those are really the only 2 options. That's
Okay. So during your kickboxing career, we were saying before, you won 58 fights in a row. Plus you were, 6 fights in a row in the UFC. So, I mean, you were just on a winning streak. And you have to think like Floyd Mayweather, he won 50 in a row, and he's got to be the cockiest person there is out there. So I just wanted to know, you're such a humble person. But was there ever a time when you were on these winning streaks, just beating guy after guy, where you felt maybe you were starting to get overconfident? And was there ever a moment where you may find it challenging to stay so humble?
You know, I've been there, and so I kind of see how people could get that way if they don't keep good people around them.
Right.
Okay. We run a martial arts school here in Simpsonville, South Carolina. We've been open for 37 years, you know, and it's been my life. I'm the head kids instructor here. So I've got 600 kids here that watch every move that I make.
Wow.
You know, and you got to practice what you preach. And in the martial arts, you're learning about the modesty, courtesy, integrity, self-control, perseverance, indomitable spirit. And that's what the martial arts is all about. And that's, you know, what I want to kind of give back to not just my students, but to everybody. You know what I mean? That you can be at the top, that you can win fights and still be humble. And I think that's something that the sports realm is kind of missing, especially in MMA and boxing these days, is that humble spirit.
I love that. It is just, it is like, ask Rob, like the one thing I can't stand is arrogance. It's just like, I grew up in a very humble home in the South Side of Chicago. And it's just so refreshing to hear a fighter say those words.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. I believe it 100%. And of course, I've got people here. I keep a small circle of good family, friends, and sparring partners, buddies that I train with, and they keep you humble, you know. And of course, my dad's there 100% of the time, who, they let me have it, man. When I got knocked out by Anthony Pettis, they're still letting me have it. Remember when you got knocked out, they still keep you humble. And
Right.
I think that's helped me a lot. You see a lot of these guys with this huge entourage of people going
Right.
everywhere they go who really don't care about you. They just want you for the money. They want to know you for the money or the fame or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've learned to kind of pick those people out real quick. Um, and
Yeah.
and keep
my grandmother always said, "Tell me who you hang with, and I'll tell you who you are." And
100%.
For sure.
It's
I
so
live by that
true.
rule, man. Live by that
Yeah,
rule.
I agree with you, man. And that's kind of what I live by even to this day. I'm the number 5 ranked welterweight in the world. Fought for the title twice,
Right.
and I'm still picking up kids in a short bus every day. You know what I
Wow.
mean?
Yeah, dude.
Right.
We have an
Right.
after school program, and I'm sitting there driving the bus, picking kids up from school. Like, I love it, man. I love it.
Hell yeah. So
Amazing.
we already discussed, you started training under your dad when you were 3 years old. And like you said, you had a first kickboxing fight when you were 15 years old. So we know you're one of the most dynamic strikers in the UFC. I've said this all the time. But you also train traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu, correct?
Yes.
As well as Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I just for our listeners at home too, can you describe just the basic difference between traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu and Brazilian jiu-jitsu? And then second part of this question, how easy was that transition coming from your background and transitioning into mixed martial arts?
Well, I started the Japanese jiu-jitsu at a young age as well. That's where I started in. And the Japanese jiu-jitsu is really heavy on, position, a little less on submissions and in the ground aspect, but philosophy, they're really big on joint manipulation, kind of, things like that. You learn the basic arm bars, triangle, things like that, but it's heavy on judo as well. So
Gotcha.
from the standing position, heavy on judo, heavy on, if you ever watch judo, there is a lot of submissions that are thrown, arm bars, triangle chokes, gi chokes, and things like that. And so it's very heavy judo and traditional, like basic Brazilian jiu-jitsu submissions, more on gi chokes and arm bars and things like that. A little less on, fighting from your back, like you see in jiu-jitsu now, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. They play a lot from their back and guard. But the transition was fairly easy. And to be honest with you, I kind of put that on the back burner as a teenager because I was more focused on kickboxing. It was bigger. It was just a bigger sport than MMA was at the time and bigger than Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I kind of put the jiu-jitsu on the back burner and I was focused on the stand-up. And then I think I was probably early 20s. I ended up tearing every ligament in my left leg. I was out for 3 years.
Wow.
Tore everything. I tore every CL that you can think of, MCL, LCL, ACL. They took 40% of my meniscus out of my left leg. And it was kind of a blessing too, because I was burnt out of competing and I really didn't know how to tell my dad that I didn't want to do it anymore because he's been there with me, sacrificing time with, the family and traveling with me, money out of his pocket so I can do what I love to do, which was fighting. And I wasn't really sure how to tell him I wanted to stop. So the injury happened. It was a blessing. I was out for 3 years, kind of rekindled that flame. And in that time, I was training with Georges St-Pierre. He brought me out. I had fought a guy in Montreal, and lo and behold, Georges St-Pierre, Faraz Zahabi, his coach, was in my opponent's corner. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's probably legit.
Wow.
I ended up knocking him out in the 5th round. And then after that, which is kind of crazy, they came into me and said, hey, man, we want you to help George out with his striking. And so I started training with him. So I started learning the jiu-jitsu and the wrestling just so I could be a better sparring partner for GSP.
I mean, how mind-blowing is that to hear Georges St-Pierre wants you to help him with his striking? Like, it's insane.
Man, it was a dream come true. Like, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, the world champ. And probably to me, he's the GOAT. Like, he is the pound for pound best guy. He's the guy that inspired me to switch from kickboxing to MMA. And he's fought at welterweight. He won the title at middleweight. Like, he's the GOAT to me. But it was unbelievable, man. It was like a dream come true. And that's why I started learning the jiu-jitsu and wrestling, to be a better sparring partner for him, because there was a lot of things I had to modify. I was so focused on the stand-up game. And and my karate background, I would blitz him, and all he would do is change his level. I would run into a double leg. I ended up on my back.
Right.
Like, and just over and over and over again. So he was my inspiration to switch from kickboxing to MMA. And then as I was in my early teens, my sister fell in love with a guy named Carlos Machado, who is one of the best, I think, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners in the U.S., in the world. I mean, he's the first cousins of the Gracie, the Machado brothers, Jean-Jacques, Keegan. Carlos is the older brother. So they ended up getting married. So he's my jiu-jitsu coach. Our jiu-jitsu coach here, Brad Strain, is certified under him. He's a black belt under him. But now, he's family. So it's pretty ridiculous. And now my brother married Chris Weidman's sister. Yes, so he's family now.
Right. Awesome.
Everybody's like, are y'all building an army? I'm like, no, these aren't planned marriages. It just happened.
Amazing. An army. Oh, that's great. Okay. So, you were saying your father owned a karate school when you were a kid, and you own one now as well. Is it the same gym, or did you buy a different gym?
It's the same gym, Upstate Karate, Team Pitch Black.
Wow.
We do karate, Kimpo karate, jiu-jitsu, fitness, kickboxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. We do it all, MMA. And so it's my dad's and my mom's gym. It's a family-run gym. So my mom and my dad, my aunt, my cousins, me and my brother. I've got 2 brothers and 2 sisters. One of my sisters that is in Dallas, she runs Carlos Machado's gyms. My second oldest brother, he's out in Dallas as well. He runs one of Carlos's gyms as well. And me and my brother, we help run the gym here. Wow. So it's a family business, man.
It's amazing. And then, what does it feel like to be able to pass on that legacy and continue on that tradition that's in your family?
It's awesome. It's awesome. My dad is the first generation martial artist, and we're second generation. I've got 13 nieces and nephews, and they all started at the age of 3 years old as well.
Amazing.
And, as a kid, I hated it. Like, I hated karate. I didn't want to go. My dad kicked my rear end. You're going to class, son. As long as you live in my house, you're training. And I think, kids are missing that kind of there's a point to where you can kind of overdo it. But my dad made sure that I was training all of us, because he knew what the martial arts, not just will teach us as fighters, but just as human beings, as being just a good human being, and what it teaches you there,
Exactly.
And I want to give that back, man. And I know my brothers and sisters are putting their kids in the martial arts because they're going to learn the same thing. They're going to be put in tough situations. They're going to learn to fight out of that. They're going to learn the modesty, the courtesy, the respect, for other people, which kids aren't getting that nowadays. It's funny because
confidence, I was going to say too.
Yeah, 100%. Confidence as well. We got kids that come in for different reasons here, and just to see the improvement that they've made. Kids, maybe they feel like they're overweight, or like you said, confidence. Maybe they're being bullied. But knowing that you can walk into a room, know that you can just about take everybody out in there, gives you more confidence than anything else. But they learn. They learn the respect. They learn, the what comes with that as well. The modesty and the courtesy and stuff. So it's great, man.
I just love watching your smile when you talk about this, man. And you can tell how much it actually means to you, and how much you're not just saying the words. Like, this truly is a part of your life and how you feel.
Live it.
And I wanted to bring this back in a little bit. So, early on we talked about the rankings and not getting the fight you want. So I've asked this other fighters. I want your take on this. How important are the rankings to you? And in your mind, as a professional fighter, what's more important, fighting or fighting to move up?
For me at this point, I'd fight for free. I want to be able to fight the best guys in the world. Like, who can say that? Who can say they fought the best guys? It's like an ad of an anime or something. The best fighters in the world, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right.
And I do it for the honor and the glory. And I worked my rear end to get off to where I'm at. And I remember in the earlier days in the UFC, rankings meant something. I know the Fertitta brothers worked really hard and it showed the progress you've made,
right?
The hard work you've made to make it to that number one spot or to fight for the title. And I think now that the UFC has been bought out by an entertainment industry, you know, IMG,
Yep.
I think they bought it for like $4.2 billion or something like that. But, you know, they're kind of looking at just the bigger fight now, what the fans want to see. So you got guys who have had one fight in the welterweight division fighting the number 3 guy in the division. It's like, what about these guys who worked their behinds off? Like Vicente Luque, the guy I fought last November, he was on a 7-fight winning streak.
Right.
On a 7-fight winning streak. I think he deserves a shot at the title than this guy here. And it's just about the trash talking about the hype now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think as long as, you know, you talk trash, you can have those shots. But guys like me who aren't going to, you know, if I started talking trash now, people are just going to tell me, just Steven, stop, shut up. You know, that's not you.
I said the same
you know,
thing, man.
I've got to work extra hard.
I said, you know, when Conor stepped in the ring against Floyd Mayweather, I was like, he has no business going into that fight. I was like, there's guys who have been boxing since they were kids, you know, who have been dreaming and you know, who are undefeated with 25 fights below them, who are dying for a title shot, who are dying for a shot against Mayweather or Canelo. And here's this guy, his first professional boxing fight, he's fighting Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with like Logan Paul going.
I was going to say, now he's fighting Logan Paul.
Like, come on, man.
As an athlete, and as I think it's the dumbest thing ever. Like, why are these guys deserve to step out in the ring with Conor or a Mayweather? It's like, you know, it's ridiculous. And 10 years ago, that would never have happened.
Right.
People would be talking trash. Like, you don't deserve to go out there and do that. But now everything's so driven with social media and YouTube. As a business guy, you got to hand it to the Paul brothers. You know, they're making things happen. They're making money. But as an athlete and as, you know, a professional fighter, that shouldn't happen. It's
severely flawed. It is a severely flawed business model.
And it's changing. And I don't like that. I don't like the change. I don't like that, you know?
No.
It's a slap in the face to everybody who's worked their behinds off to get to where they're at, to get that shot. And now this guy that just talks the most is getting the shot. It's like, come on, man.
No, and with that, you end up losing a lot of the hardcore fans and even the real fighters, because it just becomes like an entertainment is what's really going to be the draw. They're appealing to the casual fans, and you end up just ruining the sport. I think that's what boxing has done in a way. And I've loved boxing. I grew up watching. It was my favorite sport. My father was a professional boxer, but it's just the way they went about things. It kind of turned it in on itself from the inside out, and it's too bad because
I don't even watch boxing anymore, to be honest with you. I don't watch it, you know. And like you said, they're losing a lot of hardcore fans. It's like becoming WWE now, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, nobody wants to watch it. I'll watch like the Tyson Fury fight or something, like the big ones. But if it isn't something like that, I'm like a boxing casual now, you know. And I used to be all into it, you know, in the 90s and early 2000s. But so
I think those guys in the 90s, like those heavyweight guys, would crush the guys now.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the Mike Tyson, the Floyd Mayweather, the Holyfields, those guys were just technically sound, man, and big jack dudes, bro.
Yeah.
I think they had better boxing then.
Completely different era. You know, now they just kind of pump up one guy, let them fight guys that aren't really that great, just so that they know they're going to win, get a padded record, and it's all about money. And real hardcore fans don't want to watch that. They'd rather watch two of the best fighters in the world fight in the UFC back-to-back rematches left and right. You know, the UFC is made it so nobody wants to watch boxing anymore, because why would you want to, you know? So anyway, you are considered one of, if not the best striker in the UFC. When you train for a fight coming up, do you focus more on your own skills, sharpening your own skills, and focusing on more of your game plan of standing up, using your footwork, or do you look at what your opponent is doing and try to match their skill set?
Kind of all the above.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You know, I'm always, and I feel like I'm getting better with my striking, game planning, of course. You know,
right.
I got guys here. My buddy Carl Reed, one of our coaches as well, also a fighter. We sit down, we prepare for the fight. Like, he breaks it down, and like you said, we go back from their earlier fights up into the most recent fights just to see how much they they've changed. So, you know, studying fighters, watching fights is a must. It's crucial. You got to go back and you got to watch these guys and see how much they've improved and what they got better at. And of course, your own skill set. You know, I like to go back, like for instance, when I fought Johnny Hendricks, you've seen him fight once, you've seen him fight 100 times, and not taking anything away from him. When I stepped out there with him, it almost seemed easy. You know, you knew exactly what he was going to throw. And that's what we look at when we fight these guys. You know, what are their favorite techniques to throw? Like when I fought Jeff Neal, I knew he had a high left kick. He got a left hand he's been putting people to sleep with. And that's something that we had to watch out for. Different angles, you know, which direction am I going to move away to stay away from his left hand? And I did that. If you go back and watch the fight, I was constantly moving to the left. I was constantly moving away from his power hand. And so all the above, man. And even if I'm fighting a striker, wrestling is huge. I mean, look at the guys in the top 5. I mean, Colby Covington, Usman. You know, you got Masvidal, man. Yeah, I mean, his striking is really good too. You got high-level strikers, high-level wrestlers. That I have to prepare for. So the wrestling is crucial. So to have my buddy Carl Reed, Chris Weidman, these guys come in to just constant. And these guys are 240 pounds, 230 pounds, and very technical, very high level. It makes the guys at 170 seem easy. And to be honest, like I was playing catch up when I got into the UFC. My wrestling was 0, you know, and I feel like I'm still getting better.
What do you?
To be honest with you, I'm just along for the ride, man.
What do you typically walk around at?
I don't walk around that heavy. I'm considered, I mean, a tall welterweight. Most guys are fairly shorter, but I don't walk around heavy. Most guys walk around about over 200 pounds, 205, 210. I know Tyron was walking around about 210 pounds. I was talking with Jeff Neal on after the fight. He said he was walking around over 200 pounds. I know 155ers that walk around over 200 pounds.
That's insane.
Crazy. It's ridiculous. I walk around at my heaviest 195 pounds.
Wow. Yeah, I'm between 195 and 200 pounds on, you know, that's like where I walk. And it's like the thought of me going down to 170 is like no chance.
Let alone 155.
Like zero interest in that.
Yeah.
You know?
It is terrible. But this last weight cut was the easiest one. I was very motivated because it's been a year since I fought. So I was very motivated on, of course, my training. Obviously, I walk around about 195, but during camp, I'm training 2 to 3 times a day. So I naturally get down to about 185, not really doing anything, not really watching my diet, just the constant training and calorie burning and burning fat about 185. And I watched my, what I was putting in my body just a little bit, you know, more protein, I was kind of keeping the carbs out a little bit more, before I could eat whatever I wanted to and still get down, you know? But this time I watched it just a little bit. And I'm constantly going. Like I live at the gym. I'm constantly moving every day, teaching classes, training 2 to 3 times a day. There's never a chance where I'm just sitting still. This is literally the longest I've sat here today was chatting with you guys, you know. I'm always doing something. So it keeps that metabolism up, you know. But we're glad
to give you a little bit of break too.
Yeah. Thank you. Sure. I enjoy it.
So we only have a few more questions for you.
Go for it.
And then we know you're a busy guy, and thank you again for taking this out. So, what's your favorite part of the fight? The press, the training camp, the walkout, the actual fight. What to you is like your favorite part about it all?
My favorite part, and it's also the worst part, is just the whole walking out to the octagon experience. You know, even if it's in a room like my last fight with hardly anybody there, or at Madison Square Garden, packed house, you know, UFC 205, fighting for the title, walking out to that octagon is like nothing you'll ever experience in your entire life, which is why I think you see a lot of guys trying to come out of retirement, you know, because they miss that adrenaline rush. They miss the crowds cheering for you, either for you to lose or to win.
Right.
Just that whole experience of stepping out there and just having everybody just cheering for you. And not only that, but the experience in the octagon, the fight itself. You prepared your behind off for this moment right now, this, you know, 5-minute round, this 25-minute round, and you're in it at the moment. You're there, right? And either having your hand raised at the end or not is a cool experience on its own, you know?
Hell yeah.
I think that's it, man. I think that would be it.
Hell yeah, dude.
So do you ever take it personally? And I know we were talking about this a little before, when someone's like shit talking, and I know that sometimes people are doing it more to sell a fight but even with that being said, do you ever find it tempting with that when people are trying to sell a fight, or maybe they really are maybe going too far with their shit talking? Do you ever find it difficult to bite your tongue and not say anything back?
Not at all. Not at all.
Right.
You know, I've been in the game since I was 15 years old, and I know what
Wow.
they're trying to do.
Right.
Muhammad
Right.
Ali, Conor McGregor were the world's best at getting under your skin, winning the fight before you even stepped out there, right?
Right.
That's what they're trying to do, get under your skin. And what's funny with my personality and the way I go about things, I kill them with niceness, man. And it actually ends up reversing on them. They get frustrated that they can't make me frustrated, that they can't upset me. And I feel that in the octagon. They get so mad that they can't make me mad.
Right.
And I just eat them up with niceness, man. I don't let it get to me. I know what they're trying to do. You know,
There was this video with you and Tyron Woodley before your fight, and he was, if you remember, yeah.
Why you gotta be so mean, man?
Yeah. Oh my God. I was dying. That was so funny. Why do you gotta? And he couldn't keep that tough guy persona anymore. He let it out. He started laughing. It was just, he couldn't. It was so funny. It's amazing that that you're able to just turn it right around back on them. And I don't think many people can do that.
It's a switcheroonie, baby.
Yeah.
So Rob, I think we covered the I was going to talk about trash talking as well. Why don't we just jump into our last question here, and then we have a special surprise for you.
Okay, so it's hard to predict or plan anything in MMA, but if you had to guess, where do you see yourself at the end of 2021, both as a person and as a fighter?
One thing that I visualize every day at the end of 2021, I've said this many, many times before, I'm going to be champion.
Yeah.
I'm going to have my hand raised with that belt around my waist, bringing that belt home to Simpsonville, South Carolina.
Yes.
And, I've got one or two fights before one fight maybe before I get that title shot, but it's going to be mine.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But still, I know, man, like, that's the thing. Like, confidence is everything, right? And seeing that and visualizing that is the big part of making it happen. Right. When you have that in your brain and in your heart that it's going to happen, you're going to work your behind off to make it happen, to work your behind off, to train as hard as you can to get there. And that's what I see. My hand raised, that belt around my waist, baby.
Wow.
Outstanding. All right. So, Steven, that's all the questions we had per se. So, we know you've gone 3 rounds. We know you've gone 5 rounds. You are about to go 10 rounds with Rob and Jonathan.
Yes,
these
sir.
Are quick. These are quick questions, quick answers, however you want to answer them. This is just something we do with all of our fighters. Are you ready, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson?
Bring it on, baby. Let's go.
All right. Would you rather get punched by Mike Tyson or kicked by Mirko Cro Cop?
I would say, oh my God, it's a good one. Kicked by Mirko Cro Cop.
Yeah.
I think like where? To the head, to the body, where?
We'll say in the thigh.
Oh God. Okay. Definitely kick.
All
right. That punch. Whew. Okay. This is a really good one. How many chickens would it take to kill an elephant?
I would say to kill an elephant, 200,000.
That's
Yeah.
a good question. That's a good
Somewhere
one.
in that area. Yeah.
Who is your favorite superhero and why?
Spider-Man. He was my favorite growing up as a kid. As a teenager, you got those crazy years. He was a teenager going through the same problems you were going through, and he was a superhero. He made it happen. And me growing up, going through the same things, but also training here at training at every day, I almost felt like I was a superhero. I was kind of like living in his footsteps. But Spider-Man for sure, man. Spider-Man was my go-to.
Yeah. Okay. Would you rather spend a week in the Amazon rainforest or a night in a real haunted house?
A night in a real haunted house.
Really? I love it.
Whew.
I love that stuff, dude. Like lock me in the museum. Hell yeah. All right. Who was your first celebrity crush?
Oh wow, my first celebrity crush, I would say, Victoria's Secret model. Oh my gosh.
Adriana Lima?
Yes. How did you know that? How did you know that? You saw me chatting with her, did you not?
Did you meet her?
I did meet her. I met her several times.
Wow.
Adriana Lima was my celebrity crush, man. She
She's
came to my fight at
hottie,
UFC
dude.
205. I got to meet her afterwards, and then I modeled for IMG, and I was at Fashion Week, and then she was there, and she saw me, and I was like, I literally about passed out. Like, she was like, wait, she's calling me over there to her,
Right.
and she wanted to take a picture with me. I was freaking out. And of course, I couldn't show it. I had to play it cool, you know?
Yeah.
She would definitely be my first celebrity crush, man. Adriana Lima.
Awesome.
There you go.
Okay. Would you rather control fire or water?
Oh man, I would say fire is cool, but water, you can find that anywhere. You can pull that out of the air, out of the atmosphere, out of the air. Like I'm a huge like superhero buff.
That's a very, very logical way of explaining it.
There's water everywhere, right?
Yeah,
so you can use it at any time. I would say water.
Yeah, for
All right,
sure.
tell us your favorite joke.
Oh man, we do this with kids all the time. It's kind of corny, but why did the cookie go to the hospital?
Why?
Because he was feeling crummy. Dude, we have this little cube game, right? We have this cube, and it's got like kicks, and it's one on one side. It's like tell a joke, right? So we roll the die, and if it lands on tell a joke, the kids are allowed to tell you jokes. So
that's
it's
amazing.
funny what some of these kids say, man. Some of them are like inappropriate. Like, wait, okay, your mom and dad are here. Like, you can't say that one. And parents are like, shut up, Devin. You be quiet. Don't you tell that joke. But they'll say some of the funniest stuff, man. It's corny, but I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Okay, so you are the NMF. So what's the worst thing you've eaten out of politeness?
The worst thing that I've eaten out of politeness?
Right.
Oh my God. I've had turkey hearts.
Really?
Oh,
yeah.
How did it taste?
Turkey hearts.
Was it good?
I went to a Brazilian, it was chicken heart. Sorry. I went to a Brazilian steakhouse.
Oh,
the churrascarias.
Yeah, man. They had like chicken hearts. I'm like, what? I had a, you ever heard of balut?
Oh my God. You
fertilized.
My wife's from
eggs.
My wife's from the Philippines, so I know exactly what balut is.
Dude.
You ate that, dude?
Oh man, I was in the Philippines. They had all these cameras on me. So I had to. My dad eats everything. So my dad was with me, and I'm sitting looking at this egg, and it had like blood vessels and stuff on it.
Gross.
And I look over, my dad's already got it down. Like he's already eaten it. So I just put it in my mouth. I was like biting into it. I could feel like the duck beak being crunched and stuff. Oh, it was terrible. It was terrible. I'll never do that again.
Oh, and there's a video of this.
And then they tell me afterwards they had dipping sauces, and I didn't even see the dipping sauce. I just put the whole thing in my mouth and started chewing it. Oh, it was great. It was gross.
Yeah, balut.
Never do it. Never do it again.
Yeah.
All right, final one from Jonathan. Here we go. What is the strangest purchase you've made or almost made on Amazon?
Oh man, the strangest purchase that I made or almost made on Amazon. Dude, I don't shop on Amazon, to be honest with you, bro.
All right, then we'll expand it. What's the strangest purchase you've almost made?
Oh man, just anywhere.
Answer.
What? Let's see. I'm trying to think here.
Don't you go pulling punches on us, Wonderboy.
I promise you. I'm trying to think of the craziest thing. Help me out, Carl. Have I purchased anything crazy? Yeah,
Carl.
My buddy Carl right here.
What's up, Carl?
Dude, I was that gun a gift?
Which gun? Which one?
The one that
it was a gift. It was a gift. That's about the AR.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, of course. I'm from South Carolina, guys.
We're both
it's mandatory here. You have to own a safe full of guns.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't purchase it, so it was given to me.
No, okay. When we started playing paintball, and you and Tony went and just got straight dropped like a G on your show.
Okay, that's true. That's true. We got full of paintball, and we dropped like $2,000 on all the equipment.
Oh my God!
It was more than that because the paintball gun itself was like $2,000. So we went.
Wow.
That's hilarious, dude.
Yeah, I didn't want to do it myself, so I bought me and my brother Tony just like he had like a paintball hat, like padded hat.
Right.
Love it.
Nothing
Awesome.
crazy, you know. It's nothing
Yeah.
ridiculous, but it was
Okay.
pointless.
Last one for me. What movie can you watch over and over without ever getting tired of it?
Oh wow. I would say Endgame, Avengers Endgame.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Endgame. I can watch that movie over and over and over again, man. I'm a huge like comic book fan, anime fan. I would say that it was The Matrix.
Oh yeah.
The Matrix trilogy. You know, the
Interesting.
first one was the
Yeah.
legit one.
Yeah.
But then Endgame came along. I was like, that's it. I could watch that over and over and over again.
Awesome.
Well, Steven, that is all we got for you, man. We just want to thank you again. This was the highlight of our year, man. This is the last
seriously.
interview.
Are you kidding me? I appreciate you guys.
Highlight.
This was
let's
wonderful.
do it again. Let's make it happen again.
Absolutely.
I would love to
love
come
it.
on and chat with
It'd
you
be
guys
a
anytime.
True honor, honestly. I would love to have you. It's amazing to be able to be able to have a conversation with you. I'm like starstruck. I'm not gonna lie. So,
I love it, man.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Anytime,
I always
guys.
say, you know, like I'm an actor for a living, and you know, I've hung out with, you name it. I've been out and drank with them and whatever. But I still geek out when I meet fans, athletes that I'm fans of. So, dude, this is
man, I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for
Are you
making me
kidding
geek
me?
out today. Guys,
Yes,
thanks
sir.
for tuning in to another episode of the Casual Podcast. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Rob.
I'm Wonderboy.
Yes.
Yeah, you are. We'll talk to you soon, guys. Take care.
All right. Thanks, guys.